What was it like to fly my parents for the first time ever? Now, I am a pilot and I've been a commercial pilot for the past few years. However, once upon a time, I was an aspiring airline pilot, like yourself. For me, personally, one of the most substantial moments of my life was flying my parents for the first time. I think for me, when it comes to anything else that I've done and any other achievement that I've managed to accomplish in my life, the look on their faces of proudness, of happiness, to know that I was in a position that I had dreamt of since a young age, to see that radiate from their face also was a very, very special moment for me. And I'm going to explain how I got there. Now, first and foremost, these things, these moments in life will only come through sacrifice, through trials, through tribulations, through difficulties. You will never, ever elevate in life without having to take some kind of sacrifice. Think about it, for example, from a gym perspective. If you're trying to get big in the gym, what do you need in order to get big in the gym? You need to create micro tears in the muscle fibers. By creating those little micro tears in that muscle, what you're allowing that to do is give the muscle time and space to grow. Something that I've noticed from my own personal life is that if you want to take some steps forward in life, you will always need to take some steps back too in other areas. For me, for example, when it came to the flying element, as you guys are probably aware, by no means at all is it cheap. It's a very expensive course. And not only that, it can be incredibly trialing too. It can be quite difficult. Now, I know for some people, the finances isn't the issue, which is fantastic. But then the other element might be the academic element. So yeah, finances are fine. Like, oh, I've got loads of money. But what I might struggle in is the academic element. Now, I've got the added benefit that I struggled in both. So hopefully you guys will get insight from this video that will hopefully help you in both departments. But ultimately, what kept me going was my passion and my desire to, one, make my parents proud, and to two, pursue my goals and my dreams of becoming an airline pilot. So how did it all feel, and how did it all come into fruition in the first place? So first and foremost, you need a bit of a backstory about myself. Now, when I started out, I had no money. I had no way of becoming a pilot. No substantial investment from anybody was completely apparent to me. So I had to outsource all of this information. I had to get as much advice and help from whoever I could get the advice and help from. But I managed to outsource that help. I managed to get advice from other pilots, from other people that were in the aviation industry that were helping me to become a commercial pilot. And ultimately, I would say a lot of the success that I was able to obtain towards becoming a pilot was only rooted through the advice and help that I was given. And I'm not just saying that because I, of course, want you guys to listen to what I'm saying and the advice that I'm giving, but I'm saying that because if you look at it for anything in life, recently I was speaking to a Quran Hafiz who is teaching Quran. Even for him, when I was explaining what I do, he completely understood it. If you're thinking about becoming a Hafiz, what you need to do, and for anyone that doesn't know what a Hafiz is, that is essentially someone that memorizes the Quran in its entirety. So that's the religious book of Islam. They memorize it from the first page to the last page. And if you want to start pursuing that endeavor, because it is possible, there are people out there that do it, and I genuinely believe that these things are possible for a lot more people than it's made out to seem. For example, if you don't even try, how do you know whether or not you're even able to become a Hafiz? Some people just withdraw it and say, I'm not able to memorize that much information. But how do you know? However, I digress from the point. What I was speaking to this particular Quran Hafiz about, who was also a Quran teacher, he understood that without the help of his teachers, without the advisors, without reciting every day to his hifth teachers, he would never be able to memorize the Quran in its entirety. Now that is a very, very powerful thing to keep in mind when it comes to anything in life. When it comes to your career, when it comes to your business endeavors, when it comes to your education, One thing that is really, really important is that you get a good teacher and a good person along you with that journey that's going to give you the information that you need. Now, again, I'm not just saying that. I am genuinely saying it because I believe that within the entirety of my heart, that it is so, so powerful and so, so influential to have someone along your journey with you that will help you. However, I had those advisors and those mentors at the start of my career, which was really, really helpful for me when it came to actually making the decisions towards becoming a pilot. So, like I mentioned, we had some financial difficulties. My mum was not earning a substantial amount of money. I would say she was in the region of about 30K, and that's how her salary basically looked. So, if some of you guys can relate to that, it's not a lot at all when it comes to the 100K that she was going to have to end up getting out. So, what did she do? She outsourced help from financial advisors to try and get a loan from a bank. She managed to get out 2 loans from the bank, but in order to pay for these loans, now the first loan that she got, she had to start paying from her main salary. Then the second loan that she got, she realized her main salary is not going to cut it. So she had to take up another job in order to get out this extra loan. So she was not just doing one job, she was doing 2 jobs. Now, people ask, like, where was my dad in all of this situation? My dad was in a particular position where he couldn't actually physically contribute financially anyway. For him, it was out of the equation, so it was my mum that had to take the entirety of the financial burden. Ultimately, imagine the pressure that was on my shoulders to make sure that this wasn't going to be a flop. I really, really had to try as hard as I could to make sure that this sacrifice that my mum's making is not going to waste. And I think that was part of the reason why I did obtain success in the course, because I knew that the cost involved was so substantial that I could not afford to let it go to waste. But I am someone that thrives under that kind of pressure. And I know a lot of people out there would prefer not to have that pressure because it can be a little bit too much. So you have to be wary of where your thresholds are. Now, in my particular case, I was looking at a mother who was doing 2 jobs, working her absolute butt off in order to pay for my loans. And so, as you can imagine, I adopted a similar mindset where I was like, I'm not going to quit until I finish this and get a job, and then I can take them for a flight for themselves, and I can say to them that I am an airline pilot and that I can actually speak to them one day from the position that I'm actually flying them on a commercial aircraft. So I went the entirety of my training, through the ups, through the downs, through all of the difficulties and tribulations that I had. I went through and I persisted. There were times that were so, so difficult, but I'm so, so grateful that I had my mum to help me along my journey and in those particular moments in my life, because actually those moments were what shaped me towards being resilient and persisting in this career. The moments that I recall most vividly are when I was waking up in the morning and my mum had just finished her night shift because she was paying for that other loan with that night shift. And she would come home, she would get changed out of her nursing uniform, she would put on her normal clothes, open her laptop, and then sign on for her second job. Now, I was visually looking at this. I would wake up in the morning, I'd be brushing my teeth, I'd see my mum come into the house, she would be getting changed, she'd do all of those things. I'd literally be hearing her doing all of this stuff, like ruffling around, opening her laptop, getting her next job, next set of work that she needed to have ready out. And I could hear this all in the process of me also getting ready for my flight training. And you know what she did? She did all of this with a smile on her face. One thing that I underestimated massively, and I think I will never really appreciate until I have children of my own, is this sacrifice that parents will make for their children. I never actually comprehended at the time, because I was so focused on just getting through the course, what my mum was actually doing to help me get to this position. The love that a mother and any parent has towards their child transcends anything that I can even imagine. For me, at this stage, I can't even imagine the amount of selflessness you need in order to say to yourself, I'm going to pick up 2 jobs for the sake of bettering my son's future. And I'm so grateful every single day. I'm incredibly grateful for that sacrifice. And I will always credit a lot of the success to her. But for myself, what was I doing? Well, I was going every day to work, and there were some days I was really, really upset, and I was crying in the car on the way to the flight school, because I was thinking to myself, how have I done this to my own mother, who loves me so much, who's taken care of me, who's put this massive financial burden on her shoulders. I'm watching her have no sleep. I'm watching her get ready for 2 jobs 1 in the morning, and then when I come back, I'll be seeing her getting ready for the night shift in the evening. And I could just remember picturing myself just sitting there and crying in my car because I thought, what have I done to my mother? And if I fail this, what is going to happen to her? And as you can imagine, COVID hit, and that was making the situation even more scary for me because I thought to myself, how on earth am I supposed to get a job now? All of the airlines have stopped hiring. So how am I going to pay off this loan for my mum? How am I going to help her in all of these situations? These are just some of the problems that I had throughout the entirety of my training. It was a really, really stressful time. And I know that. And the only reason I say all of this is not to boast and say, oh, look at the difficulties I've been through. It's because I know that there are challenging times for you guys too. There are going to be difficulties in your journey towards becoming a pilot. And what I want you to know is that despite those difficulties, you need to remain persistent, resilient, and just consistent with what you are aiming to achieve. If you are really committed and motivated towards becoming a pilot, there's no reason you should not be able to make it. Of course, you need the right people around you, you need to get the right guidance, but at the same time, with that right guidance, if you can use it in a constructive way and you can funnel it towards the right outcome, then there's absolutely no way you will not succeed in this industry. I was doing this for the course of about 2 years, where I was training and doing everything and going up through these ups and downs. And then I finally finished my training, and that was one of the best days of my life, where I knew that now I could start earning money. Finally, all of those years of studying at school and studying in the flight school have gone behind me now, and now I can focus on actually what I want to do, which is apply for airlines and become a pilot. So I did that. I managed to get through my flight school a assessment with a particular airline, a short haul airline in the UK, and I sat that assessment. And imagine the stress that was on my shoulders to get through that assessment. I said to my mum before that and my dad, I said, please, just this one day, nobody come into my room. I know that the dinner might be ready, whatever, but nobody interrupt me for this period of my day. I beg of you. So I said that to them, and everybody respected it. They left me alone in that room for the remainder of the evening. And what I did was I took the assessment. Now I finished the assessment, and then the next day I was going to receive the news as to whether or not I had succeeded or I had failed. And what happened was I was spending the entirety of that day sat in the sitting room with my mother. So I literally spent the whole day just sat there talking to my mum, trying to distract myself from what was an inevitable phone call saying yes or no. So the phone started ringing, and I picked up the phone. Hello, is this Mr. Adam Batty? Yes, it's Mr. Adam speaking. Well, we have some news for you regarding the assessment that you had yesterday. And I was thinking, okay, what is about to happen? And I looked at my mum and I thought, this is like the moment. Adam, I'd like to just congratulate you for passing your interview with blah, blah, blah. And at that moment, I remember the brightest smile on my face. And I literally saw my mum jump out of the sofa in like a Mario style, let's go kind of cheer. I was so, so happy. It was the best feeling of my life at that moment where I had finally come to get an airline job. And that was, I can't even describe, that feeling was so, so powerful. I prayed for that moment for years. When I was younger, I dreamt of that moment. And so now to actually live the reality of it was so amazing. But then it came to the end of the phone call and they asked me, so we just have to ask you a quick question. It's just a formality, but the type rating, which is what you're going to have to do if you want to become an airline pilot, you have to do what's called a type rating to get the qualification to fly a big aircraft. So they said, the type rating is going to cost you around 25k. Is that something that you're going to be able to afford? And then I looked at my mum again and I thought, oh, my dreams, what has happened? Like, why have I got another hurdle, another financial burden to throw at her? Like, why has this had to happen again? And I looked at her and my mum said, yes, like in big, big, big nodding of agreement. Like, yes, there's no way you should not be taking it. Yes, 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 is what she was saying behind the phone. And I said, okay, yeah, we should be able to. And we hung up on the call, and I looked at her and I thought, how are we going to get another 25k? And my mum, I just remember her saying, you leave that with me. And what she did was exactly that. She managed to get out some more loans. She used some cards, whatever. I don't even know anymore. Like how she managed to get the rest of that 25k, but she managed to get it, and we put it towards that type rating. I got the job, and then I started flying with this short haul airline. Now, a few years later, I finished my training, I finished everything, and I started to think, well, it's about time I show them what I actually do. Because I would come home every day, she'd be super proud that I was in my uniform and I was, where I had all of the flight bag and I had the headset, and she would see some photos every so often and think, wow, like that's cool that he's actually doing it. But she'd never seen it, right? She'd never actually been in there and actually seen what I'd done. So I said to myself, I'm going to book her and my dad on a flight to Menorca. So I booked them both on a flight to Menorca. And unfortunately, I couldn't hide it. So I couldn't make it a secret. I had to basically tell them, oh, I'm going to take you abroad because I want to fly you back. Because if you're from an Asian household, it's unheard of that you're going to go to Menorca for a few days. Where they would go is probably Pakistan, but they wouldn't go to Menorca. It's just like a bit of a strange place for us as Pakistanis to go to. So I had to basically reason with them and say, well, I've got a flight to Menorca scheduled on my calendar. If you wouldn't mind, I'm going to book you for a flight outbound, and then I'm going to fly you back inbound on my flight. And they said, yeah, that's fine. We'll go for the weekend away and then we'll come back with you. And so that's what I did. I booked them on a flight. We have staff travel at the airline that I worked for, which was really, really beneficial because then I could just get them the flights for cheap. And I booked their hotels, I booked everything for them because I thought this is my chance to treat them for the sacrifices and the burden that I had put on them. So I booked everything for them. And then I met them on board the aircraft. And that for me was one of the most special moments of my life. And I didn't really know what to do in that moment. I remember on the way outbound, because I was flying from London airport, and I remember outbound, I was just thinking, what am I supposed to do, like, when I see them? And I was thinking, I'll give them a hug, I'll say hello to them, I'll do all these things. I just need to say the right things, and I don't want to embarrass myself. And so, on the outbound leg, I was just thinking exactly that. What am I going to say to them? What's important in this particular situation is them. So it doesn't matter what anyone else is thinking at this stage. What's important is that my parents are having a good time. So think about it in that regard. That's what's important. Get a speech ready, prepared. If you want to script it out and just give it to them. Because actually, I think those moments are so special, not only for your parents, but also for the passengers, like that's a massive sacrifice. And they've got to respect, really, what your parents have done in order to allow you to get into this position. So, yeah, I'm a massive believer that you should do a speech for your parents. However, the irony is I didn't. And it's one of my biggest regrets on my first flight with my parents. One of my biggest regrets is not doing a speech for them. And one day I'm going to take them again, and I will 1,000,000% do a speech for them because they deserve it. Maybe when I become a captain. But for the time being, I'm going to let them have their peace and tranquility and not embarrass them just yet. But if you are considering becoming a pilot, I think you should 100% do a speech for your parents when you do come full circle, or whoever was responsible or helped you along your journey, because it shows that you value them massively. Now, that was my kind of story in a nutshell as to how I got to that point and what it felt like. And honestly, I would not replace this job for anything on the planet. It is the best job in the world. And a lot of people ask me, like, why am I doing the mentoring stuff and why am I helping other guys out and all of these things? And it's just because I genuinely believe it. I believe this is the best job on the planet. And again, I don't have to. I could spend my days off doing other things like playing golf, going and playing football with my mates. I can do those things, but I'm sat here talking to you guys because what I feel provides more value to this world is actually giving you guys information. Now, that being said, if you do find the information that I'm giving you beneficial, please just do me the massive favor of liking the video, subscribing to my channel, leaving a comment as well, because a lot of the videos that I do make are now inspired by the comments, so it does make a massive, massive help to me if you do leave a comment, because then I have some inspiration as to what to make a video on next. I apologize that I've only uploaded one video this week, and that's simply just because I was very, very busy. I just came back from a holiday, but I hope that you've enjoyed this video anyway. It's given you some inspiration from my story and how it felt for me to actually fly my parents for the first time, and hopefully it will be your turn soon. And if you are interested in becoming a pilot, I do offer my services. If you go into the description, you'll be more than welcome to book in a call with me. Now, thank you very much, and I will see you guys very, very soon.
Here you go. I'm a designated filmer. Congratulations.